Hi, it's Wednesday. It's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you as always by Together 2012. We're an arts organisation based in the main London 2012 host borough of Newham. We're led by disabled artists creating a Paralympic cultural legacy. This unlocked live stream comes to you as part of our Join In From Home programme, and we're going to be telling you much more about that during the show and also about what's coming up in our Disability History Month festival, Making History. But first, some introductions and some audio description. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as Ju90. I'm an artist and artistic director of Together 2012. Locked down with me since March in my home studio is our chair, the artist Julie Newman. But as always, I was going to say men first, but perhaps that's not quite what I mean. I'm going to hand over to the other end of our long wheeled virtual sofa in the West Midlands for some introduction and audio description from the guys.
Hi, I'm Josh Surgeonator. I'm one of the hosts of Together Unlocked, and I am a PhD student. My audio description for today, I'm wearing a plain grey t-shirt. It's not very exciting at all. And I have slightly damp, long blonde hair because I've only just recently got out of the shower because it was the first time today that I'd had time to do it. So I managed to sneak one in. So if my hair gets brighter as the show goes on, it's just because it's drying slightly. And it no longer looks wet.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday on Together Unlocked TV. I am Robin Surgeonator. Yes, accompanying co-host of the show up here in the West Midlands at the far end of the virtual sofa. It's blooming horrible here. Just thought I'd let you know that. I know you live in the balmy parts of London down there. It's wet and windy and cold. So just thought I'd share because it's not, it's just good to do that. Today I am
Scotland's got any sympathy with you?
no. And what do I look like today? So I am sat in front of some very, very warm curtains though. So we have our theatre backdrop up and keeping us warm simply by how it looks. And I have silvery white hair, no framed black armed glasses, currently not wearing earrings. Just thought I'd throw that in because I do have pierced ears, but I've never worn earrings on the show. Blue eyes, cleanly shaven, and I am wearing I don't know, kind of coloured shirt. Olivey.
From this end.
Sorry.
Green?
Could be.
Pale?
And it's we'll just go with a round neck, pale coloured t-shirt with a monochrome image of Tom Waits on the front.
Yes, I was looking at Josh in his plain, stylish grey, and then I was looking at the three, shall we say, older presenters, all of us with our logo t-shirts like teenage boys. I don't know what that says about us. So, Josh thinks he has got a logo somewhere, probably a tiny.
It's not about as exciting as it gets, though.
Yeah, like I say, Josh is stylish and sleek, and the rest of us are in our teenage boys' t-shirts. So I've got a self-styled Corona crop, hennaed red. I've got black plastic glasses, black wrist braces, silver-coloured jewellery, and a purple t-shirt that says on it in red and purple, Mad Love. We're not going to try and discuss whether it's purple or blue. We almost went down that route. And all I can say is have a show presented by artists. And as soon as we start audio describing what we're wearing, none of us can actually agree on the colours or indeed even on the colour hair. Julie and I are proud to be redheads, but Josh just complains about a ginger light, which is now probably coming straight off the curtains as well. Julie, who are you? What do you look like?
Hi, I'm Julie Newman. I'm the chair of Together 2012. I look lovely. I don't look like a teenage boy. I look like me. I have.
I didn't say we looked like teenage boys.
I am not aspiring. I have gold and silver hair, dark rimmed glasses, and today I'm wearing the white T-shirt where do we go? With the ginger cat on the crest of a wave, looking down at a Japanese styled house with a tree and a small, where has it gone? A small ginger, well, very
Another
reddish
cat.
Yeah, I wanted to appear pensive and philosophical today. This is my pensive and philosophical look.
Yes, and the wave on the T-shirt is taken from that very famous Japanese painting, which of the wave, which name I can't remember and couldn't pronounce.
I think it's called The Wave.
Well, I don't think it's called The Wave in Mandarin,
Oh,
but I
right,
was
I'm
actually
sure it's
meaning the
not,
name
yeah.
of the artist, but no, I
Mm.
couldn't pronounce that anyway. So yes, you've got a lovely T-shirt on. Talking of cats, you may or may not see random animals appear in the course of the show, both on recordings and live. If you want to know more about them, we appreciate they're more interesting than we are. On our website, www.together2012.org.uk, you will find the Together Unlocked pages. You've got the main page, which has got the recording of this show, the shows that go out live, but also underneath that, we have a highlights and links page where we put up the links and the videos that we show today. And we have an animal hosts page. But if you see my camera shake, you know there's a cat not too far away. Funnily enough, I think the only cat we don't have represented between London, West Midlands, and our writer in residence, Penny Pepper in Hastings, is a ginger cat. We've got tabbies, we've got black ones, we've got white ones, we've got blue ones.
But we've got memories of ginger cats that we've loved.
Yes, but we're absolutely not going to go there. Otherwise, we'll be doing that and discussing colours all the time. As I said, we have a join in from home program. Usually, well, I say usually, this is usual now, pre-COVID and post-COVID, we offer a morning program of creative workshops for disabled people and whoever they want to bring with them. And we call this our clubs program. At the moment the clubs are operating to some extent on Zoom. So coming up next Monday, for example, fourth Monday of the month is the Together Dance Club. The second Monday last week was Photographers and Filmmakers Club. On a Tuesday morning, we have Make and Natter, where you can either bring your own craft project or follow one from the leader, which is the artist Alison Marchant, who's our club's program leader. And then on a Friday, Alison leads Still Life. The clubs are quite a bit shorter than they would usually be. We think most people can really only tolerate an hour of Zoom. So they're 11 to 12. But on a Wednesday, we have a phone-based group where we phone you, put you onto a group call, and we pay all the costs. So how did poetry go this morning?
Oh, it was lovely as always. The theme this morning was Through a Window, and everybody contributed. It was so interesting to hear the various perspectives. Dawn Barber excelled herself and gave us an additional poem, which was an homage to Precious and Jazz, our assistants' dogs. I don't think they deserve it at all, but she was sending lots of messages across to them as well, which was nice. That was nice.
Great. Sorry, I was just turning your mic down slightly because it had got a bit too close to your face if you were sort of wondering what I was doing with the mixing desk. But you can move the mic and I can turn you up again as well. Also, of course, last night we had the second of the live events in our Together Disability History Month Festival. And that involved a public view of Ali Z's wonderful exhibition, The Starving Artist. I was expecting you to hop in there to do a act. So yes, you can see how tired the team is. So we've had Josh pressing all the buttons. We've got Robin doing the virtual front of house, welcoming everybody in from 6:30. And last night I was in conversation with Ali. So we have an interview that Ali did with Hazel Brill, who's an international artist and leads our youth program. We showed that on Monday. So that interview, as well as on our highlights and links page, is also on the event page in the program. And coming up soon, there will be the recording of last night's discussion for anybody who missed it. It was a fascinating evening. I mean, you were watching as audience. Did you enjoy it, Julie?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I loved the way that that we had the pictures as they came up to illustrate the conversation and the discussion. I thought it was very insightful and actually very inspiring.
Yes, it's Zoom's not, well, I wouldn't call this an easy platform that we're using for the live stream, but Zoom's not the easiest platform, but Josh is pressing buttons to, well, to save us all, really. And it did work very, very well. But it's
yeah.
a wonderful exhibition. If you haven't seen it, it's online now, along with our other exhibitions. So we've got the Together Open exhibition, we've got Justin Edgar's Reasonable Adjustment exhibition, and we've got Shadowlight Artists' Luminous exhibition. And all of those exhibitions have also got live events coming up because this festival runs till the 10th of December. So we've just really started week 2, haven't we? And rushing on again, and coming up tomorrow, we have the first, well, it's not the first live art event we've run, but it's certainly the first live art event that we've ever attempted to do digitally. So we're going to have 2 artists doing performances from their own home and also showing a bit of pre-recorded video, and I'm going to be talking to them as well. And I think what we'll do next is put on an interview that we recorded just a little while ago with Gobscure. Now, Gobscure is one of the artists who's appearing tomorrow night. I think it's best to let him tell us more, and then we'll chat a bit more after it, and also talk about our other artist tomorrow night, Rebecca Redican. So this is Gobscure in conversation again with Josh pushing the buttons.
This is Gobscure here, and I'm in my council flat in the northeast of England in Newcastle, actually just over Hadrian's Wall. I'm not wearing what I will be wearing tomorrow, but behind me is part of a hyena in petticoats. Mary Wollstonecraft, way back in the 18th century, was, well, they attempted to erase her. She had multiple aspects of identity. She was disabled, she was bisexual, she was an internationalist, a writer, a campaigner, a feminist before the word was created. And actually, she was erased and called a hyena in petticoats. So that was the term of abuse that they decided to use against her, to rub her out, to ridicule her. And in her honor, I am a hyena in petticoats. I think I am a daughter of Mary, and I think there's loads of other daughters of Mary out there, rebellious people who, don't conform in various different ways, whether it's around disabilities, sexualities, whether it's around genders, whether it's around internationalisms, whether it's around campaigning in the widest sense. So she was rubbed out, erased as a hyena in petticoats, and in her honor, I am dressing up as a hyena in a petticoat. I'm in my council flat and in my backyard, so I haven't been outside of that bound apart from medical appointments for a long, long time, and staging a demo and about all sorts of things that I think are wrong in the world currently, but actually also about turning things around, about rewriting the narrative, about changing things. Let's have a better future. And the wonderful thing also is, and you won't be able to see the petticoat just now, but tomorrow I will show it. Petticoats are social distancing. A petticoat, if that queue of MPs in the summer, when they were outside Parliament, if they each had a petticoat, they would know what the right distance was. And I think, I think there should be one beige petticoat. Michael Gove and Jacob Rees-Mogg can fight over the beige petticoat, frankly. But a petticoat, there is social distancing. There's the mask. And I would love one day to see in Newcastle, 100 of us, petticoats of all shapes and sizes, accessorized, decorated, and so on. Ones for people who are using wheelchairs, mobility scooters, kids, people on stilts, and a parade of that. So yeah, Mary Wollstonecraft was a hyena in petticoats. I think we should honor those sorts of things and reclaim them. And I think she's a wonderful, rebellious role model for right now. She is, well, she's living history. So, and this is Disability History Month, and she's not, although yes, she died, but her life and her times and her issues and her campaigning live on. And I know that there is a recent statue just gone up in London. To me, I like living memorials. So the idea of something, I don't know that Mary would have liked to be on a plinth. I think she would have liked a library or a mobile set of libraries with food banks attached, something like that, something more, if you like, mobile, getting out and about. And, but this is about sort of a living memorial. And that thing of, how do we memorialize anyone, whether they are, if you like, a famous person, someone who's, if you like, notable in public life and has done something, or what I call the ordinary extraordinaries, those of us who are just trying to go through life, trying to stay alive and trying to do some good or change something. So, we are all ordinary but extraordinary. How do we memorialize? How do we remember those people? And obviously these are COVID times, but this is a general thing about death and dying and grieving and mourning. So in terms of mental health or mental distress, in one sense that, of course, it's inevitable that people will die. And it hurts like hell, doesn't it? But how do we use that in a useful, a positive way to kind of heal or get past it and celebrate, if you like? So that's a little tiny bit of what Hyenas in Petticoats is about across art forms.
Yes, I mean, obviously we knew nothing about Maggie Hambling's planned statue, and I just love the fact that we're going, thank you art world and thank you mainstream feminist world, but we'd just like to reclaim our artist now and celebrate her in a way that we think is a little bit more appropriate. But yes, the synchronicity is quite extraordinary. Of course, as we say on our program event page, you're a festival favourite, and the last time you were with us was in 2017, and that was a wonderful exhibition called Prison. On the event page of the programme, we've got a link in to the event page from 2017, which takes you right through the digital version of the exhibition and includes the full video and a short highlights version as well of the talk you gave. So people are very able to explore that. I think what we found sad, because you've done a poetry workshop for us as part of a previous festival. Last festival with the art exhibition, you came down and you did a painting workshop. But I think what we lose in having you physically present, we gain, because we've never been able to go and visit you in Newcastle. And here we are. And here are the presenters of Unlocked, all shielding and not really been out apart from medical appointments since March. And here are you. And yet we're working together for at least the third time, and not only bringing your work to Newham, but extending our audience for once across the UK and saying, well, this is what Gobscure does when he's with us, but we'd love you to join in as well. So I'm just so looking forward to tomorrow night, and like you say, the added thing of saying thanks Mags, but we'll think we'll have our artist back now.
And the input, there is also, so the art, there is also online art and also a zine. So again, yes, you can't physically be with me and I can't physically help create workshops and things like this, but, actually creating, if you like, a DIY demonstration or placards, T-shirts, wider horizons. So actually, like, almost like in one case, making a map of, here are the lines that Mary visited and here are lines of poetry or art. So there is that zine available free for or e-zine, a PDF file, so people can download it, access it, and then come up with your own creative responses in response to the activities. So, there is also a sort of a DIY participation element as
yes,
well.
and that's been really important to us, that we haven't just programmed a festival full of videos. It's a festival of genuine live performances and genuine opportunities to join in from home. So the day after, so on Friday, the full video of tomorrow night will be up, But also links to all of these other things that you can engage with, and Gobscure will be explaining more about that in the evening. So as always, you can join us on Zoom or YouTube, and we'll look forward to seeing Gobscure tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much. He's so clever, isn't he? Apologies that the sound was rather out of sync there. We're still learning how best to deal with Zoom recordings, and clearly editing the sound separately looks like being one of them. And also we're working on the quality, because clearly that picture quality is not as good as you're getting on this stream. But I think Zoom is really all we have to create genuine live performances, as opposed to streaming where the audience can't join in the same way. What did you want to say, Julie?
I love him. I think he's such a nice man. And when I raised the subject of his appearance tomorrow night at the Poetry Club this morning, everybody was saying, "Oh yes, yes, oh yes, oh," very enthusiastic. I think the participants of Together, who've been around for a few years and have had the benefit of his workshops and talks and the contact with Gobscure directly, are also very, very fond of him. But I really like the idea of reclaiming Mary Wollstonecraft and the petticoats. I can remember wearing petticoats back in the day, perhaps not quite like Mary Wollstonecraft's, but it's an interesting concept, and one which is tickling my imagination massively.
Yes, for anybody who is finding this whole conversation a bit obscure, what I should have said is, yes, Mary Wollstonecraft is known as the mother of feminism, and also the author of Frankenstein's Monster.
No, that was her daughter.
Oh, no, that was her daughter. That's right. So Mary Shelley is Mary Wollstonecraft's daughter. The statue they're referring to, that I was referring to, has been in the press a lot over the last week. It's a kind of silver stump with a naked lady rising out of the top, might be the easiest way to describe it. And it's been fundraised for by feminists, but it's rather controversial because many people hate it. I don't really have an opinion, but it's
I do. I quite like ignoring Maggie Hamlin. the what Mary Wollstonecraft wrote was the rights of women. And that was in the 1700s. I think that was was absolutely radical. And
there's nothing like being in front of a camera to go totally blank, isn't it? Thank you, Julie. Clearly you don't.
Well, I wasn't the one speaking, was I? So I have the advantage. But no, it's really there is this statue which has been erected, created by Maggie Hamlin, who I always think has got a very bad sense of humour. And I imagine sometimes her work is designed specifically to raise discussion and to raise attention. I like the one that she did in Aldeburgh. I thought that was great, but that's shaped like a shell, and it's absolutely appropriate for the setting, which is on the beach. But this Mary Wollstonecraft wasn't wandering around naked, for goodness sake.
No, I mean, I think before we move on swiftly, I think the only take I can take on it is that the default body is always seen as the male body. And that's one of the things in medical research, that very often women aren't involved in medical trials. All medication dosages and so on are based on how men's bodies respond. And just in all sorts of different cultural fields, you can see that the human body, the male, is taken as default. But I'm not a fan. But I tell you who I am a fan of, and that is Rebecca Redican, who is also appearing tomorrow night.
Yay.
Rebecca is a really interesting emerging artist. Her piece tomorrow night, which like Sean's consists of video and live performance, is called Delay 6. And Delay 6 is an anagram of dyslexia. And the themes in dyslexia are really the themes of this piece tomorrow night, by which I mean things becoming obscure, focusing on things and it just becoming more difficult, words, how words are put together. But she really has, as with Gobscure, a very imaginative way of doing a live performance over Zoom. So really looking forward to that. But now I think it's probably time for us to move on, get away from all of the pressure of the festival, COVID, lockdown too, and everything else, and have a little bit of slow TV where we go on our weekly virtual nature watch with an assistance dog. We started this back in April as a way of being able to see the outside world, even if it was our own backyard, which we couldn't actually get out to because it's so small. And all of the neighbours were out without masks, so 2 meters was not possible. But now we have Merlot, Stara Plurge's assistance dog. Stara is one of our presenters and also a member of ACT Up Newham. She and Hannah Facey, who produces the ACT Up movies and so on that we show, are currently staying in Norfolk. So what we've been doing is accompanying them on a walk on a Wednesday. So Julie, I think as always, you're going to do a bit of audio description for us.
Oh, and we're moving already. That wasn't expected, but that's Merlot for you, ever eager for the off. His head is just bounced into view. There's a landscape, which is bouncing into view as well, with some bushes, weeds on the side of the banks by the path. In the distance, there's some trees. The sun is shining in that sort of hazy, wintry, autumny day type way through the clouds. The sky is dark blue and the clouds are dark. We see his Merlot, the head of little Merlot, popping up and down. He's obviously really enjoying himself. He's pausing every so often to have a little sniff around. But he's a dog with a mission at the moment. He's paused again, just checking that his people, yes, there they are. Yeah, no, he's gone back to catch them. Come on, he says, come on, this is lovely. Off we go. Off we go. Come on, people. People. And off he goes again. I take it his people are following him obediently. He's going through the grass. There's actually quite a lot of grass and growth. The fields are off to the right, and they're ploughed and looking very brown with trees in the distance on the horizon. And he seems to be running up to the field and straight into the puddle of there's a ditch that runs alongside the field. I bet they really love that. And now he's back on the grass and back on the path. He's found some weeds which obviously smell delightful. Because of course there's animals around, and there's his people, and back he trots at speed. No, he's turned around again and he's going in a different direction. Merlot's having a nice day, and I think that's what we can take away from that film. It was a lovely breath of fresh air, wasn't it, Ju?
Yes, I certainly enjoy going for a virtual walk, that's for sure. Did you have anything you wanted to add, anybody, before we move on and talk more about our Joining from Home programme?
I was going to say, I mean, I kind of right back to the beginning, how much I thoroughly enjoyed Ali Z's, both the artwork and the chat, and particularly some of the her personal experiences that led, that have driven the creativity, and especially for me, the reference to being in water. Because that's and when I have submitted a film for the festival, and you'll see that there's some synchronicity across the two, completely unwittingly, obviously. And yeah, no, the acts I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night. And again, I've known Sean, worked with Sean on bits and pieces over the years, and met him, and he has some fantastic ideas. So yeah, kind of really looking forward to it, and yeah.
Yes, I mean, and I think that's one thing to say about Ali. If you're, if the actual subject matter of eating disorders doesn't appeal to you, the paintings themselves are so rich. I think the whole show is just so rich, and it's got so many different ideas. The interview is a really good way of getting into it. And I think last night we were really able to discuss a lot of issues around, well, how the stereotype of the starving artist helps keep artists in food poverty, and how that in itself, can feed eating disorders. I mean, I realised that in a quarter of a century of being involved in the disabled people's movement and the disability arts movement, it was the first opportunity I'd ever had to say I live with an eating disorder. Whereas, I've discussed my kind of, don't worry, I won't do it now, my long, boring list of other I don't know how much of that is wrapped up around shame, but when you think of all the other things that artists have put on canvas, yeah, it is quite extraordinary. So I think as with everything we do, one of our aims when we set up Together 2012 was to bring emerging artists and mid-career artists making new work into very intimate pop-up venues. That was partly because Newham has no venues outside of Stratford, and we've just lost our arts centre as well, so we have no arts centre of any kind, but also because it's much easier to engage. We have the lowest level of adult cultural engagement in the UK in East London, and it's so much easier to engage with something if it's just on your doorstep. And what I really love about doing the festival digitally this year is it goes one step further, because we are literally coming into your homes. You can switch us off, you don't have to come and travel to us. But generally speaking, I think the home can often be the most accessible place to see anything, and probably the safest place, because some of these ideas can be really challenging. So although yes, I mean, I think having worked professionally in film and TV, of course, I get frustrated with the clunkiness of live streaming, let alone Zoom. But I think the intimacy you get of being able to talk to these fantastic artists and see their work, absolutely wherever you are, I think has just been a really unexpected benefit. And having you doing the front of house and welcoming people in, I think again, the more we're able to make it like a physical festival, I think the more sense you get of joining in from home. But talking of joining in from home, we also have a full program of activities that you can join in outside of the festival or any of the clubs that we're running on Zoom or by phone. So I'm going to put a short video up. It's excerpted from a longer video, which you can find on our website, unsurprisingly, at the start of the Join In From Home section. Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home programme from our website, together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page, where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. All of our activities can be enjoyed by families at home, but we also have some of our favourite activities here from our family activity days, which we usually hold in the school holidays. Card making with pens, stickers and paper is also popular. You can show someone you're thinking of them by making them a special card, and if it can't be delivered safely, then send a photograph with a personal message, or keep it till later. Here we have instructions for making a sock puppet, a storage jar or night light, or a lunchbox or storage box, all of which are really popular with our family activity days, and you can click on each of these links to get full instructions. So with the sock puppet, for example, you have lots of instructions with photographs to show you exactly what to do. Same with the storage jar. and same with the lunchbox or storage box. And you can see how effective it is just to use very, very simple techniques. Everyone is completely unique. The Pop-Up Poetry Club meets on a Wednesday morning. We also run regular poetry projects and poetry cafes. We're inviting you to write or sign a poem on the theme of Together and send it to us to share on social media. We're also going to be publishing an anthology of the Together poems in November, and everybody who contributes will get a copy of the physical book. And indeed, that book is rushing towards publication. What we're actually doing at the moment is we're bringing out a short run physical book, which indeed all the poets will get copies of. Once COVID is over, there will be a longer run, but in the meantime, we're going to be doing our first ebook, and that is able to include, we think, fingers crossed, videos, because we've also had some wonderful videos in. Some of them are signed poems, and some of them are videos of people performing their poems. We're going to be showing those videos on Unlocked. So if you've written a Together poem and now you'd like to create a video, just send it to us. We've got the stream at the bottom of the page. It's info@together2012.org.uk. All of that information is still on our website, but I believe it's time for our weekly feature, nothing to do with the festival, the Clockwork Paralympics. And the first thing I have to say about the Clockwork Paralympics is we do know that the real thing is spelt with a Y. Now, I don't think they've got their teddy bear at all. We're going to have to audio describe an invisible teddy bear. But that's okay. We can do that. Oh, no, he's found it. He's found it. Bear's scowling. So, as I was just saying, we spell our Clockwork Paralympics with an I, partly for humour and partly to avoid being sued. So anybody who's written to me to tell me that our social media team are spelling this item wrong on Twitter, actually, they're spelling it right. It's just not quite the same spelling. So we now have two very similar looking bears waving at each other. Mine is golden brown and it's got Ted Fringe on its top. It's a bear that I got when I took an exhibition to the Edinburgh Festival. And I thought, as we're in festival mode, it was time that Ted came out again to take a turn. Before you introduce your teddy bear, Robin, I should just explain what's going to happen. We take part in the worldwide virtual bear hunt, which means we've always got a teddy bear of some kind kicking around the set for children and indeed adults taking part in the bear hunt to watch. Julie's just waving ours around, kind of rather menacingly, I think, really, but certainly extremely distractedly. As we were missing sport so much, and particularly as the Surgeoners are Paralympians, we decided we would let our teddy bears wear a medal and we would compete for it by racing clockwork toys. Thus, the Clockwork Paralympics London 2012 versus the Commonwealth Games Birmingham 22. So finally, what's your bear called, Robin?
This is Baby H. This is I think you describe it as a kind of golden treacly coloured bear. It's very, very soft. And it is the younger sibling of Harrod, the Harrod's bear. This is his little brother, Baby H.
You must be the only family I know that have managed to find blue badge parking in Knightsbridge, or did you do it mail order?
No, there's parking around the corner. You just have to know where to look.
Yes, and choose that 1 second of the day when you can actually get in. So I have a bit of a treat for the Surgeoners this week. I believe Robin introduced himself at the beginning by saying he's also known as the artist Angry Fish. Partly, we understand from a previous explanation, because his surname's Surgeoner, and partly because he's a multi-gold medalist Paralympian. Usually we choose some of my clockwork toys, of which, as with teddy bears, as you said last week, we have a house full of toys. They have a house full of medals. We just have the one gold plastic one. But Julie was recently seduced by television advertising into buying flappy fish for the cats.
Oh, excellent.
So we have fish racing today. They're not quite clockwork because they're you charge them on USB instead of winding a key, but they work in the same way, I believe. The cats can't bear them. They just sit there and have absolutely no interest at all, but think they might be slightly dangerous. They do move rather slowly, so whereas we usually have a sprint, this is a bit of a marathon, and even then they're kind of on the back of my lottery whiteboard. But Josh, you usually do the audio description for this, but first, do you want the fish in my right hand or my left hand?
Ooh.
Bum, bum, bum.
Let's go your left hand, so the right hand side of the screen. Assuming you're doing it facing us.
Okay, over to you, Josh.
So we have our two competitors that are some form of fish. I mean, in true form to our normal Paralympics, neither of them had attempted in any way to reach the finish line. Although they do appear to be going in a more of a straight line than some of the clockwork toys do. So I think we're on a plus there. They appear to have kind of squared up to each other in some sort of judo-esque start and then both retreated.
Oh, but it does look
But I do
like,
believe that we have retreated closer to the finish line than the other team.
I think one's died.
Yeah, I think we're still going, but we're not actually going anywhere. I think they're just flailing in vain against the stairs.
Well, it is a relief after, I think, 5 consecutive defeats to the London 2012 team that this week I am awarding. It's probably going to be all camouflaged. I'm awarding Baby H with a rectangular gold medal. And I will tell you what it is. It was from the 1991 European Swimming Championships for the 100 meters breaststroke. So he is now also a Commonwealth swimming medal champion. So there you go. It's in case you can see this, as often not shown on medals, the back of the medal. If I can get the angle right, I don't know. There is braille, which also tells you what the it says. I'm assuming it says 100 meters breaststroke SB5 male, and the information on the front, which is that it's the European Championships in Barcelona. I don't have any braille skills, I'm afraid, but obviously our fish has racing skills, so there we go.
Yeah, well, certainly the cats kind of came and pottered because they quite often, as you know, act as spectators and occasionally storm the track. So don't worry, Ted. You're very, very gifted in other ways.
I can post a picture on Friday of 2 grunts, which are small fish in off the coast of Florida, facing off to each other, which I think is very funny and is probably quite appropriate if you're interested. If not, I won't. But
yeah, angry fish. We like angry fish.
yeah, I think you would like this one as well. Cool.
Okay, so if you can bear to put your smug teddy, will be still nice to be
Smug.
able to see it. I think it looks pretty smug.
It is smug. It's a very smug and happy little bear. I have to congratulate you.
It's about
I
time
have to admit, I love seeing your medals, but that's because I don't really get to see any in this household. We're not really, like you say, we're more of a teddy collecting, clockwork toy kind of household. But so inevitably, I'm now going to hand over to the Surgeoners to do our weekly sports and gaming report.
Yes, we'll go with sport first. So this weekend, I'm going to read this because I can't remember the name. This weekend is the United Through Sport World Virtual Youth Festival 2020. And I think we talked about this a month or two ago, that the International Paralympic Committee had kind of put out a call for children to kind of submit videos of them doing their kind of sport or their exercise, and then a piece to camera about kind of how they want the world to change to be better. Well, that festival launches on Saturday. No, Friday, sorry. It starts on the 20th, which is Friday. And it's kind of the joint venture between the International Paralympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, the Special Olympics International, and kind of many hundreds of other kind of groups and organizations that I won't list. But it sounds really interesting, and there's sections of it are going to be live streamed on the IPC's YouTube channel. So I'll talk about it a little bit more, or kind of remind people on Friday. I think there's one of the things for something for the weekend. But given that it starts on Friday and today's sport, I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of flag that up. It looks like something that's going to be kind of quite interesting, quite exciting. I was looking at on the IPC's website about it. They've put up the videos from the kind of finalists of people that had submitted videos to that competition. So those can kind of be viewed online. And it links in quite nicely that they've just finished a kind of project review. They had the IOC and the IPC had a whole kind of program over the last few months, kind of looking ahead to Tokyo and what can they do and how can they do it and things like that. But there was two quotes from Andrew Parsons, who's the head of the IPC, that I kind of really liked, that he gave kind of in his closing address at the end of it, which was, at a time of crisis, the world needs inclusion, not exclusion, more than ever. And then there was another one, and this kind of links into the next story that I was going to talk about, is that change starts with sport, and next year's Paralympic Games are a platform to place disability at the heart of the diversity agenda and show the world why inclusion matters. And we talk a lot on the show about how kind of sport leads into art and art can lead into sport, and that kind of interplay between the two. Well, actually, and we talked about it a little bit, but kind of the social impact and the platform that sports people have to drive that change is really important, and it's something that lots of top athletes do try to do, and unfortunately get criticized for a lot of the time in certain media publications. But and it kind of links in with today, I'm not sure who did it, but I saw it on the BBC, put out their kind of the list of the most influential Black people in the UK, which is a list that comes out every year. And Lewis Hamilton kind of won it. He topped it. Who obviously is a Formula One driver, but has done a huge amount of kind of activism stuff. One in kind of I can't think of the word.
Bringing inclusion to the Formula One.
Yeah, well, yes, I was going to go on to that, about like making the sport more sustainable, eco-friendly. There we go. That's what I was thinking of. I had one of those mind blanks that Ju was talking about earlier. Yeah, it has also done huge amounts of stuff around kind of the whole Black Lives Matter movement and kind of really pushing human rights. And I was listening to an interview with him at the weekend after he'd won, and kind of tied for the most successful driver ever. And someone, they kind of said to him, well, what are your plans now? And it's like, well, I just feel like I'm getting started, really, which is quite funny. That but you see, one of the things that I want to do is, in all of these countries that we travel to all around the world that don't necessarily have the greatest history or current kind of human rights, to help push that change. He said, but I don't want to, do it and it's changed for 15 years from now or 20 years from now. It's like, I want the change to be now. And he's kind of using that platform that he's now got and he's always kind of done that. But I think now that he is, there is nothing left for him to win in Formula One. He has everything.
And I think
Now-
also it's about people's power over you, isn't it? Because one of the things I was thinking between him and Marcus Rashford is they're not lottery funded sports. They're not Olympic and Paralympic sports. And I know that traditionally there's always been a great deal of pressure not to rock the boat, not to speak out. And that, certainly Tanni Gray Thompson has told me about the pressure against being selected, that you think if you speak out about something, you won't be selected. It's a very unfair system where you're doing your absolute best for your country, but you can only be allowed to do that if you filter the rest of your authentic self. So, yes, I mean, you're always very impressed with Lewis Hamilton, but also Marcus Rashford, aren't you?
Yes. I imagine, Josh, you're going to talk about his literacy scheme, aren't you?
Who, Hamilton's or Marcus Rashford?
Yeah.
I was actually going to mention about his stuff at school meals and kind of food poverty.
Can I just then briefly say, I was really impressed that he came out as not being able to read until he was 17, and his absolute drive to make sure that children have access to books.
Well, it wasn't that he couldn't, but he didn't read books. And I think that's the thing. You can grow up now being able to read, but never reading a book, and the joy of a book. I mean, I think, to be honest, we should probably wrap up sports and move on to gaming soon. Just to say, don't get too close to the microphone, John,
sorry.
because sometimes the sound is just occasionally getting a little bit too loud. But yes, I mean, do you think, I mean, Robin, as a Paralympian, have you felt pressured not to say things? Have you been?
I think as one of Great Britain's higher medal winners, 9 is not a collection to be sniffed at. You could ask yourself why I'm not on the television a lot and why I'm not the one, presenting radio shows other than the Together ones. And it's pure. I mean, I'd like to think I have the capacity to do it, but I've always been outspoken. I've never held my tongue in the sense of shying away from issues. So even though I was a founding member of the BPA athlete committee, I did so under protest of having actually not been a member of the BPA, which was created by the non-disabled people who were part of the move of the process. And it changed. It did change, and other people come in. But even now, if you look at the top jobs in the, in the BPA, I mean, obviously the IPC is different, but there have been very few
Could you just
disabled
explain
athletes.
PA and IPC for us?
Sorry. So IPC is the International Paralympic Committee, which is the body that oversees, obviously, the Paralympic Games, but a lot of other international sport, the rules, regulations, and classification and stuff. And then the BPA is the British Paralympic Association, which is the body that brings those rules to Britain and then runs the teams and competitions as the overall umbrella body and team selector and whatever for the British representation in the international scene.
I think it was, well, I didn't know anything about Paralympic sport, disability sport, till I think about 2009, 2010, when the late David Morris, who was head of inclusion at London 2012, headhunted us to work on the Paralympic legacy. But I always assumed until a couple of years ago that this was a disability thing, that people were there, that it was very much that it was a medical model of disability, sporting setup, that it was a medical model that you could tell disabled people what to do, blah, blah, blah. And it took till 2 years ago when all of the stories started coming out about the bullying in cycling, the bullying in gymnastics, not Paralympic, but Olympic. And that's when I realized we do have parity. But these athletes who are subject to selection processes, non-commercial selection processes are incredibly vulnerable. And it had just never occurred to me that non-disabled people got treated like that as well. So one hopes when you see sports people of color who've got very, very considerable commercial considerations, but are able to make those choices from themselves, being such role models. So sorry, Josh, we've got 5 minutes left and I'm going to hand that over to you.
Yeah, that went slightly long. I mean, I spoke longer than I intended to. I think I kind of got on a bit of a rant. In terms of gaming, I was wanting to talk about probably in more detail, but I shot myself in the foot by talking for too long and everything else. There's a charity called it's called the Ablegamers Charity, and it was something that I was kind of aware of in passing, I think, and it was founded by a guy called Stephen. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. And I kind of knew who he was because he was really involved in creating the Xbox adaptive controller, which we talked about before, where he was kind of a big part of. He was a consultant on that kind of project. But I'd never really kind of looked into it more. And then on Twitter last weekend, I saw a tweet from somebody that I follow, saying that she was co-hosting the Ablegamers Accessibility Awards, and I kind of went, "Well, what's this?" And what it is, it was a kind of 2.5 hour show that was awarding games for the extra things they'd done to make them more accessible to disabled gamers. And they had kind of different categories. So one of the categories, for example, was called second screen. So it was specifically designed for people that wouldn't necessarily be able to access all of the information that a game gives you. That it gives you an option to have it somewhere else or to go back and look at it. So they were talking about kind of if you've got kind of ADHD or something like that, if you get distracted at a crucial point, you're not just then completely stuck because you've missed it. You can have you can have kind of the dialogue, you can have the subtitles, you can then go into the menu and it will just tell you what it said, and stuff like that. There was awards for it's called Same Controls But Different, which is about remapping controls. What that means is, for example, if a game says that A is jump and jumping is very important for the game, but you can't reach A or you can't press A, you can go in and basically tell it that whatever button you want to press is A or the trigger or whatever. And games that kind of have a huge amount of functionality in that. And it was really interesting to kind of see those different things. And I think we'll probably talk about that a little bit more next week. And I'll not talk about sport for so long.
Well, maybe next week we could have some screenshots as well. I mean, I just am blown away by how much more forward, again, the commercial world of gaming is ahead of the kind of publicly funded, well, practically non-existent offer in terms of accessibility, or we're still being sold these incredibly kind of overpriced pendant alarm systems.
Yeah, he was talking, I'll say it really briefly because I'm aware of the time, because he's got very limited arm mobility, and he was playing a game that needed a lot of mouse movement, and it was an independent game, so it was a smaller developer. And he said indie developers are really good. He literally tweeted them and said, "Oh, can you up the sensitivity settings?" And they just went, "Yeah, I'll do it tonight." And they just went, and it was like a line of code for them, and they just went in, changed it, and tweeted them back and said, "Done. Enjoy the game." And it's things that are so easy, and it was just kind of celebrating people that do it.
Yeah, and yet if you want to try and access Facebook, there's not a human being, whatever goes wrong. But still, we're not here to talk about the negatives. We're here to encourage you to watch digitally, because tomorrow night, as we said at the start, at 7 o'clock on Zoom and on YouTube, we have our live art night with Gobscure and Rebecca Redican. You can book your tickets via Eventbrite. You can find the booking link on our programme at www.together2012.org.uk, or you can just watch us on YouTube, and the YouTube stream is embedded on the top of the programme from the time we start. The doors open at 6:30. We'll be back at 3 o'clock on Friday, dressed up to go out to stay in, with lots to recommend for the weekend and more festival news. So it's goodbye from East London.
And it's
Goodbye from
goodbye
us.
from West Midlands. Bye.